My name is Gianfranco Guidati. As usual, I will be your host for the next 45 minutes. And today our speaker is Professor Armin Eberle from the ZHAW in Winterthur. And the subject of this talk will be the case study Zurich, which is extremely important for the project because Decarb Zurich, like also the other suites, have a very practical drive towards demonstrating the things that we are developing. So, Armin, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Gianfranco. Thank you for joining us. Hello, and it's a pleasure for me to introduce you into our case study in Zurich. I'm head of the Institute of Sustainability. I'd like to talk you through where we are, what we do, and it's a special pleasure for me talking about Zurich because I live in Zurich and I'm inhabitant of Zurich, and I'm therefore in the midst of all what's going to happen in Zurich. And with that, we had a votation, a referendum in May 15th last month. And it was actually a referendum about whether we want to have a road, a path towards net zero until 2040. So that means in 20 years we have to decarb Zurich, and 75% of the inhabitants of Zurich said yes to that. So that's a great opportunity to us to work together from science side with the public and with the administration of Zurich. Great opportunity, but also, of course, some challenges because it's a very highly political issue, and the people from the government, they don't always have time to work together with us because they are under pressure as well. And of course, we have a certain pressure. We don't have time to do whatever we want. So it's a political issue, but we have 75% of yes to work on our common subject with the decarbonization. Yeah, so I show you around with the goal. Where do we start in Zurich? What is the situation we find? What are the main topics for Zurich's? And on the other side, what can we do? Where are we researching in order to help Zurich? What can we do together? And some views on next steps. That's what I'm going to present you in the next half hour. And if you have questions in between, so please do not hesitate to ask. Yeah, where are we from the side of this Decarb project? I think we're in the midst of these goals and ideas of the Decarb project, meaning that really we have to show what it works, how our research can be implemented in a city like Zurich in order to learn things, to reflect things, and in order to be able to multiply the things that are working out pretty good. So that's what we're doing. So from theory, from analysis to implementation with a partnership of a city like Zurich, and of course the other partners, the implementation partners, working together with Zurich. So that's what we're starting. What is the goal? What's the goal? We had our referendum. The goal is we have to reduce our direct emissions from today, 2020, from like 5 tons per head, 3 tons per head to net zero. Net zero, exactly, we cannot reduce to zero. We also have to take into account negative emissions. But that's the path, the direct emissions, you see them here. Zurich is also aiming to reduce the indirect emissions, meaning what we are buying from outside, some traffic from outside, all these things. But the direct emissions, what's happening on the ground of Zurich, that's what we have to reduce to net zero until 2040. In between 2030, we want to reduce it about 50%. So that's almost the level, the scale where we are engaged as the SWEET project group. So we have to see, we really can account for what we will reach until 2030. Yeah, where do we start in a city like Zurich? That's the picture of the energy consumption of Zurich, the final energy balance from 1990 to 2020. You see there is only a small, how to say, small effects of energy saving, energy consumption. Well, we have to say it's in absolute numbers. The population has grown in Zurich from like 400,000 to 430,000. So at least per capita, it's certain success. But what you also see, we have like more than 50% of our energy consumption is based on fossil fuels. So there is quite a lot of challenge that we might address. Brown is fuel, and the brown is gas, and the blue is electrical power, and red is the mobility, the fuels for cars and vehicles. Yeah, the CO2 emissions, according to the picture we've seen before, you see red is fuels, and brown and black is the heating fuels. Like more than 67%, 2/3 stems from heating of buildings mainly, and 1/3 is from traffic mobility. So that's in terms of what we have to reduce. Actually, it's 2/3, like these 700,000 tons per year that we have to take to zero. Well, Zurich has done a lot yet. You see here a graph from 2015. Energy planning of Zurich is a discipline that has long ago started to work on. Zurich has a clear idea of the heating demand. It's like 2050, the situation where is what demand, because that's very interesting and important to know where we have to concentrate, or where we might concentrate future supply of the energy. You see here some very dense center and some regions that there's a low density. We have to find specific solutions for. And so that's the demand of the heat. You see there hasn't been a lot yet, but the prognosis here, I'm talking about efficiency gains. We have to reduce, or that's the scenario, the reference scenario, a dotted line, and the full line is the efficiency scenario. So the idea is to reduce demand by 15 to 25% until 2050. Of course, that's helping, an important thing to have a chance to come to zero emissions. The energy planning, that what makes it very interesting, the potential supply of sources for heat. You see here, it's already in a planning stage. We see what areas could be heated by what source, or supplied by what source. So we have the water as a heating source, or we have biomass in the green lines, or we have groundwater heating sources, or of course we have the long distance heating from waste incineration. That's all we have as a starting point in Zurich. The supply, the zones, they have already been identified. Here another study that is showing that the potential for the transition in terms of what do we have in terms of energy supply is pretty good. So we have like the blue lines is the potential, and the red is the scenario, the reference scenario or the efficiency scenario, as we have seen before. So we've seen the potential for biomass, for instance, is covering the needs. Heat pumps from air. There's a yet unidentified potential, but of course, it could be huge. Geothermal energy, it's not that important. Thermal solar energy is another source. Excess heat, unknown. Where could we work with it? The water supply, heat pumps, that's a lot of supply. Biogas, also we have a plant that is already producing biogas from green waste. So that's in theory another positive aspect, that it seems that we have a lot of renewable energies to use. What do we have to do? That's from the referendum. What the city already has in mind to take measures to implement to reach the goal of the zero emissions. First, I start with the numbers out of the brochure from the referendum. It's planned to have investments like 430 million francs per year by the city, and additional 90 millions should be paid for by the private sector. So we have a total of 520 millions per year to implement measures to reach the goal of zero emissions. Where does the money go into? That's the idea, the planning made from basis of studies. Refurbishment in the building sectors, it's like almost half of it goes into that, into the efficiency, of course, the insulation and things like that. Replacement of the heating systems, 14%. Production like photovoltaics, 10%. Thermal grids, that's an important issue, 19%, and transport is included also by 9%. That's what is in mind, the planning, the forecast, if you want so, from the city. And some interesting numbers, what we have to accelerate, what we have to reach in order to have a chance to reach our goal. It's the refurbishment, actual 1% refurbishment rate. We have to double it to 2.2%. Replacement, an important topic for us, of fossil heating from 200 systems up to 2,300 fossil heating systems, like a six-fold acceleration of the exchange rate. Thermal grids, we spend now 10 millions per year, and that has to eightfold to 80 millions per year, and PV installations by tenfold of the capacity we have today. So that's the numbers, the challenges that Zurich faces. Yeah, so the main topics, that's again from Zurich, goal until 2040, 60% of the heating demand should be covered by thermal grids. So an important measure, an important source of the heating. Usage of local sources, of course, wherever we can, we have to exploit energy from wastewater, incineration plant, groundwater, geothermal heat. And of course, therefore, we need development of the grid in stages as it is planned and confirmed by public already. In terms of production, we have, of course, the renewables. So photovoltaics has to be intensified. Biomass, of course, that's a limited source. We're talking about import of wood, for example, or the waste biomass. Energy consulting in terms of energy efficiency, incentives, subsidies, forced transformation of public buildings. The city wants to be ahead, a role model, and reach the net zero by 2035. So to sum it up, Zurich seems to me like a perfect sandbox for us, for the researchers, to implement, to see whatever we can, where we can do what. The legend, sorry, it's in German, but it's the long distance heating. It's Erdsonden, meaning geothermal energy, biomass, whatever you can imagine. You find some places probably where we can apply findings whenever they match. So that's the sandbox box where we start. And what do we do from this, the perspective of suite? Decarb, that's I'll take the picture of the tree. I like that one. The low-hanging fruits, they have already been harvested. The sweetest fruits, probably we don't have the time in the political sphere to wait and see until we have the genius ideas, but we have to work with the people of Zurich in the bulk of fruit in the middle. So that's where we start with. That's where we aim to help and to work together with the city of Zurich, and what it really matches perfectly is our aim to facilitate, speed up, and de-risk the implementation of the renewables, as it was said in the beginning of our Sweet Decarb project. So the tasks is identification of the challenges. That's what we are actually doing. We want to have the results. We want to learn from the results for scaling up or for feedback for our researchers. The thermal grid technologies is a real important issue as well. If we can improve here certain things, that's tasks and outcomes. Definition of the top topics. The report of the framework conditions, very important. What do we learn from the framework? Where are barriers? Where are incentives? A report of methods and guidelines. That's the idea to learn and to multiply the conclusions. Yeah, so that's probably we all know of that. It's just to show the complexity, but also to have an idea of what ideas can influence each other, what work packages do help each other, and how they are interrelated. I'll show you a little bit more of it here. We have the modeling. It's very important to talk to them. The grids, of course, is very important. We also have some industry in Zurich we can learn as well. Renewables, the sources, the other ideas, of course, they can be implied too. Then we have the case study of Geneva on the right-hand side. That's going to help too, because what they find, their findings, maybe we can use them in Zurich as well. And very important, of course, the socio-economic issues as well. What is the framework? What are incentives? What can we do together? Then important is giving the feedbacks to the researchers from when we have an opportunity to apply things. And finally, to share, multiply the learnings and the results. That's what we aim for. Here's some examples what we could imply or test in Zurich in the case study. Work package 2 and 3, the legal framework, socio-economic frameworks, design optimization of the thermal networks. It is decided we have millions to spend, so it's very important to have probably some ideas to improve technology, to improve the implementation of this. The work package 3 networks, of course, will help us with that. Also, the other work packages, work package 4, from the industry side, lowering, or the work package from Geneva, how to lower the return temperatures from the district heatings, or process integration. We have already some examples from Zurich, that's from work package industry, that might also have some impact or some further implementation in Zurich. So the main topics: thermal energy system modeling, technologies, design, legal socioeconomic integration, energy demand profiles, renewables, heat transformation, storage, important topics, negative CO2 emissions. We have seen Zurich will need this finally, certain negative emissions, so that's could be important as well. Scenarios, pathways, policy. We've seen it's very important to have ideas on the development of the demand to match it with ideas of the supply. So we're now in the stages on the right-hand side. That's just some symbolic pictures. We have our workshops working together, and of course, on the lower right, our researchers with their hands on technologies. And so we have to match these two pictures together to identify supply, demand, Zurich, and common needs, common possibilities to work together. So that's the match between Zurich and Sweet. That's what we have identified yet. What is of common interest for Zurich and for our researchers? That's the modeling demand, the diverse energy supply of heating and cooling, how, where, when, etc., centralized storage, peak loads, these questions. Development of the district heating networks. We have seen there's a lot of things to discuss, and according to this, also questions of dismantling of the gas grids. The transition, how to get there, what do we need, legal, social frameworks? That's some important questions, of course. So far, we have identified, together with the government of the city administration, the fields of high priority, like modeling of the demand, the energy supply, the potential, the development of the thermal grids, district heating networks. That's of high priority in terms of time and topic. And also of high importance seems to be how to deal with peak load, energy storage, efficiency, of course, security of supply. These are important questions as well. Also, pricing, legal frameworks we have to identify this in a political sense as very, very important to have acceptance of our work. Yeah, how do we organize it? I've explained it already a little bit. We organize workshops, large-scale exchange between all the people from the Zurich side and the research colleagues, setting priorities. Then we organize bilateral meetings of the certain topics, because there's certain people with have to match the thematic problems, and therefore we have some decentralized groups, and then we go together. We have coordination meetings to get things together again. And of course, what is very important, we have to look out already to find pilot and demonstration projects, large scale projects. We have to find them, and we have to introduce them to our implementation partners, like the energy service from Zurich, or the gas services, or all the parties that are involved, in order to identify certain P&D projects, of course aiming to gain some prizes, like what door or whatever, if we find some really nice topics. Challenges we have, that's the gap between research and the implementation partners. Because the resources are scarce, especially in the side of for the city. Time constraints that we have, that the people from the administration have, the responsible project leaders also from the administration. The problems should be defined bottom up. It's clear we have to work together. Not just our findings have to be implemented, but it has to be of a win-win situation for both sides. And so it's crucial to discuss and define problems together in a certain way of co-construction. There's missing an E, sorry, no more low-hanging fruits. I've told that already. It's a lot of things already done and decided, but we need solutions for, and that's the challenging thing, for the last 10%. That's the picture of the tree. The low-hanging fruits, they are harvested, that's not the problem, but to find the last 10% of the 100% renewables, that's the challenge. And also non-technical issues are very specific also in Zurich, multiple suppliers, legal constraints, acceptance of change. That's issues that are very important to address. The handling of the data, we've seen there's a lot of things written and there's a lot of data. So we have to organize ourselves in terms of know-how transfer, that we don't do things again, or we can really use what's already been done. Then local influence is very important to identify what is local, what could be scaled up. So that's important things to discuss. Yeah, lastly, the goal is set. Let's walk the talk. We're looking forward to great and fruitful collaboration between the researchers and the implementation partners. And so from my side, thank you very much. Thank you for your interest of today.
Thank you, Armin, for this excellent overview of what is planned in Zurich.